Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge. Today I am doing a review and book discussion for Shadow and Flame by Mindee Arnett. If you have been following me, really since my channel started, which isn't a ton of you, Onyx and Ivory was one of my favorite books of 2018. This is the second book in the Onyx and Ivory duology. It's also called the Rhyme Chronicles, I believe. This is set in this really cool world that, if you want to know about Onyx and Ivory, you can watch the video up in the card, because this review may already get kind of long, and so I'm not going to waste time going over the first one, because you either are just watching this because you're watching all the videos on my channel, which is really nice of you, or you've already read the first one and you're looking for info about Shadow and Flame. So, Shadow and Flame, I'm going to start with some non-spoilers. There won't be a ton since this is a sequel, and I have a lot of feelings, as I did about the first one. And so then we will jump into spoilers. So I'm just going to give you a few basic points of like why you should continue the series if you've read the first one, or for some reason if you're watching the non-spoiler part of this, what you should go back and read the first one. So this duology very easily could have been drug out into multiple books. At many points while I was reading this book, I was like, wow, this could have been the end of this book, and there could have been a third book. And I don't know if this was originally supposed to be a trilogy. I don't know, because Mindee Arnett has a trilogy and a duology already under her belt, so I feel like it could have been either way. But I found myself thankful that she kept it to two, because it really made each book very impactful, and there was no chance for there to be second book syndrome. You know, there was nothing that got tabled for later because there was going to be a third book, which I feel happens. And you know who in so many books where it gets put into a trilogy for money-wise, or because that's the contract that the author got, or whatever reason, and it really could have been wrapped up in two. That being said, I definitely wanted there to be another book, because I love these characters, I love this world, and I wish we could have had more time to dive deeper into it. So that's what I will say for this duology, is that it's a very tightly told story, and I feel like if it had been drug out longer, it wouldn't have that quality. Also, I think it's really easy to commit to a duology, and so those are some positives for it. So now I'm just going to say a couple things that are vague and non-spoilery if you haven't read this yet, before I get into the spoilers. So Kate is still amazing. She is Traitor Kate no longer. She is now the Wilder Queen, and that doesn't mean she's actually queen. It's just they call her the Wilder Queen for things that happened in the previous novel. She definitely, in my opinion, gets a power upgrade, but really that just means she's learning other ways to use her sway and to be more proficient with it. That comes with new challenges and new disagreements with her loved ones, which was frustrating. Her and Corwin get separated in a few different ways. I don't just mean separated by time and not time. This isn't a time travel. I don't just mean separated logistically, but they were very tight at the end of the last novel, having went through some serious things. And there are more challenges, of course. The course of love never did run smooth, right? And then there are more from your favorite characters, including Bonner, Dal, and I can't say her name, I think it's Rigney. As well as some new side characters to love and hate, which is always fun. And yeah, basically this was a very solid sequel and finale to the duology. I ate it up in just a couple days. I was trying to space it out because I knew it was the last one, but that's not how I roll. I'm a push through type of girl. So that's going to be it for my non-spoilers. Now we are entering the spoiler part. And if you're noticing, I'm kind of looking down. I actually wrote up my notes for once because I had kind of a lot to say, and I knew that I wanted to be as concise as I could. So we are getting into spoilers now, and I'm going to dive right into it. So the way that this book starts is Kate, Corwin, Bonner, and a few other people are going to try to find Kate's younger brother, who was kidnapped at the end of the last book. And we know that, and there comes a situation where both Bonner and Corwin are thought to be dead after the first chapter of the book. So I already knew this because I was part of the street team, and I actually got to read a pre-release part of the book. So I knew this was going to happen, and it had me on edge just going into this book because holy shit. It had me on edge going into this book already, which maybe caused some of my hesitation for the first day or two because I didn't know how to deal with it. But they don't make you think that he's dead for too long. And you find out more about why he's not dead or can't die. That was so amazing, so clever. And that's one of the things too I'll say for this book is that Mindee, it seemed, walked herself into a lot of really difficult situations. Mindee, the author, but she always was able to explain them, for the most part, in some really interesting ways. So anyway, Corwin and Bonner, losing them right away was really a kick in the teeth to Kate, and it really hardens her. And so then we skip ahead a year, and Kate, they have come to this agreement with Edwin, who is Corwin's brother, who they're in the last book, they had to do a trial to see who would become the king because the kingship isn't based on the line of succession directly. The brothers have to compete to be it, and they never got to do the last trial. So Edwin can't officially be the king, but Corwin disappeared, so he's ruling as the king. And so Kate has lost, she believes, her little brother did die, but she lost Bonner and Corwin, and so she's become hardened. She now uses her power a little more indiscriminately, whereas before she, had to hide this. Now, as her new role as part of, there's a council now that rules the wilder half of the country, and Edwin rules the other part of it. And he will give them any wilders that they find in exchange for them all getting along. And Corwin's been living as a slave, working in this one mining operation. And when he gets recognized he doesn't really remember who he is. He's blocked out who he is. And he gets recognized. He gets scooped up by this other kingdom who wants the king there. They're immune to magic, and so they want to take over the whole area because the wilders can't use their magic on him. And so he's been calling himself the God King. And so his daughter, he wants married to Corwin so that he can use Corwin as a political puppet to displace Edwin. And make Edwin lose the trial. Well, there's something that they find out, which just explains why Corwin could live, is that Corwin and Edwin, neither of them, once the trial that started in the last book happened, neither one of them can die except in the trial. So there's nothing that they can do to murder the other one or whatever until that trial is complete and someone has rightfully become the king or one of them has died in the trial. And so, but the thing is that this king who's not susceptible to wilder magic, the elements that Corwin and his fellow slaves had been mining was this certain kind of stone and magic that can cut through all spells, all magic, and so he can use that for his own nefarious ends. Wow, I'm just rambling all over. So much for taking notes here, right? So anyway, let's talk about a few points that I really loved. I really loved actually the daughter that Corwin is supposed to have to marry, because there's someone with sway who forces him into the marriage and who is even at one point going to force him to consummate the marriage with this girl, which is a really frightening thing because the girl's impervious to magic. She's of the bloodline who's not. And Corwin his body can be taken over basically by this guy. And so the woman that he marries, they become friends with each other, and she's like begging him to actually consummate their marriage so that this other guy isn't going to be forcing Corwin, which would, you know, they'd both be getting raped by this guy basically, which is just crazy, guys. Like, I saw the situation coming, and like the whole time, which I actually took a lot of notes in this one, I annotated as I went, I was like, can't you guys just fake consummate the marriage? Like, people have been doing that forever, and it takes them like a while to get to that point, but I'm like, please don't make this girl, you know, don't make her go through this, don't make Corwin go through this. But Corwin at this point like knows that Kate's still alive, and he just can't betray her. And it's such a poignant moment because he tells her, he's like, I don't want this to happen to you, but if I ever see Kate again, I have to be able to say that I did not willingly participate in this. And it's just such a hard line because you feel for both of them. Because in any other book, like, Corwin might have, you know, agreed to have sex with this woman, and then how's he going to explain that to Kate? But eventually they get smart and they fake it, and I was like, come on, guys, should have known that. A couple things that were really like pointed to me. That was one that I did like that. I liked their solution for it. Kate and Corwin, when they end up in the same place again together, he has been being controlled by this guy for the last few months. And so he's now really wary of her and her gift. And Kate, like I said, she's been a little more indiscriminate with her gift. And so like her and Corwin have to like renegotiate their relationship. And that's something that was frustrating for me because first they were kept apart for a good over half of the book. And then when they get to be in the same place again, there's this really awkward thing. And for me, this is where I do wish there had been another book for us to build their relationship, because they have all these problems together and then we just get like an epilogue where everything's okay with them. And as I shared, like when I was reading this book, their relationship in the first book was one of my favorite parts. I loved the romance. I loved that they had been friends to lovers, and then there was a break between them, and then they had to rebuild that friendship and relationship. And in this, it just felt like these two people who knew each other so well and went through this situation wouldn't be like doing this awkward dance around each other. So that felt out of place to me for the characters that the author had created. So that was one of the downsides for me. And then, let's see, Edwin, we lose Edwin in this book, and it hurt more than I thought it would. Edwin's made a lot of dumb decisions, but he was still Corwin's brother, and Corwin and Edwin still deserved a chance to fight it out to see who would really be the king. And so it really hurt me that this new evil king was able to use his weapon and just break through the spell and kill Edwin. And it hurt more than I was expecting it to. So it was really good writing on my half. And then through using that weapon, the shadow gets released. And so anyone who's touched by the shadow loses their wilder gift. So Bonner, who he had power over earth and metals, he loses that. And like, he's okay with it, but it leaves Kate with this quandary of, should she give up her wilder gift and just be a normal Kate again? And yeah, that was a hard dilemma. Something else that I didn't like, I'm kind of going back and forth with this. Something else I didn't like, there wasn't a lot of Kate communicating with horses as much, which was one of my favorite parts from the first one. There is a couple situations where she gets to, but she's mostly using it in other ways. And so that brings me to the biggest frustration for me. And it wasn't a frustration that dimmed the book. It was the frustration of like, you have to read through these situations. And I didn't like how Kate was treated for her wilder gift. So now we're with a bunch of people. Wilder gifts are allowed to just be known about now. Nobody has to hide them anymore. But sway is still the most like dangerous and like coveted one. Because like, so these powers, the wilder powers generally are all over the elements, air, fire, water, all those things. And then sway is the fifth one. And Kate, like I said, is using this a little more indiscriminately, and she's shamed for it in the last book. She has to keep it a secret, or the king might kill them. And then in this book, when she should be able to use her power and do good with it, her friends shame her for it. Now, granted, I understand the quandary of, yeah, you shouldn't be controlling your friends. Like, you shouldn't just be making them do what you want them to do all the time. That leads to conflict. That's not a great way to keep your relationship strong. However, I would have been more on their side and like seen their point of view if her friends weren't so stupid. So here's the problem, and it's because I sympathize with Kate so much and I love her, and I also am like her in a few ways. And so her friend, specifically Signe, does a lot of things that could get her killed, and Kate stops her a couple of times. And that really breaks the trust with them. And while I understand that, the things her friends were doing, I would stop my friend from doing if I could. If I could snap my fingers or use a power and stop my friend from jumping in front of a bullet or from doing something dangerous, I would, and hang the consequences of that. So I understand the conflict of it. That's why I'm not like ripping on the story. Like, I understand that would upset relationships, but I always felt that Kate was justified. So the way that the author was trying to make me be afraid of Kate, like, I wasn't, because I knew what Kate's heart was behind each of her decisions, and her friend was being stupid. And so I couldn't like feel for her friend who was being controlled, because I was like, if my friend did that, I would do that too. So it was just, I understood what they were doing. And then they like compared her with the bad guy who was doing this to Corwin, and they were two completely different situations. And so she's thinking of herself as a monster, and she's, you know, worried that she won't have any friends left when this is over. And I was like, that guy wants to like rape a girl with his power, and she just wants her friend not to like jump off a cliff because she's sad. Like, those are two different things. And so when Kate's feeling like a monster because of how she uses her gift, I just don't buy it, because I'm like, they're completely different things. Like, your friend can be upset, but you're not doing like a moral wrong to do that. So anyway, that's the debate of that power. And so when she has the option to give it up or not, it really leads to a struggle, because she's done good things with her power. So should she give it up just because people are afraid? And should she give it up because she might become bad one day? I don't know. That's a part of the book. So, but yeah, so I identified with Kate a lot. So, and then also I just have to say that we do lose someone, and I'm not over it. You think you're going to lose the one person and you lose the other person, and it really hurt me, and I'm not over it. So, all right, that's enough of my rambling. I don't know if this review is even helpful to you, but this was a discussion, and this is where I like get it all out. And I feel like not a ton of you are as excited to read this as me, but I don't care. I'm a completionist. I did a review for Onyx and Ivory, and here's a review for Shadow and Flame. It was a great build up to this book coming out. I loved being on the street team for it and posting about it. And I really hope that you'll give this a chance. I didn't say, I give this 4.5 stars. There was just a few things that like brought it down for me, but on the whole, I loved it a lot. I want to read this duology again someday. Hopefully not too long, because I want to reread that first book. It was so good. It had a great conclusion. And I mean, I really wish she would tell more stories in this world. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning into this review. I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can watch some more right now.